Ever find yourself totally lost in translation when you're talking to your partner?
Oh, yeah. Happens all the time.
Yeah, even when you're both speaking English or whatever language you speak.
Right.
Like you're speaking two totally different languages, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're diving into this whole world of communication styles in relationships today.
Mm.
We're going to try to decode those mixed signals
Yes.
that we're getting and build some, actually build stronger connections
Yeah,
with this deep dive.
absolutely. Because, we try to use that like one-size-fits-all approach to communication.
Yeah.
And that can be a recipe for disaster
Oh, yeah.
in relationships.
Oh, 100%. It's like trying to assemble, I don't know, some furniture
Yeah.
from, IKEA or something,
Mm.
using the wrong set of instructions.
Like, how is this even possible? So how do we even begin to figure this out? Understanding all these different communication styles, what do we do?
Well, I think it all starts with, looking inward a little bit.
Okay.
Like self-awareness.
Mm.
How do we communicate?
Yeah.
Some people are very direct in how they communicate.
Okay.
Short, clear sentences. They get right to the point.
Yeah.
Others, they're much more nuanced. They like to kind of beat around the bush a little bit, so to speak. They give you hints, gestures. They read between the lines. Where do you think you fall on that spectrum?
Oh, I am so direct. And sometimes to a fault, right?
Right.
Sometimes to the point where my partner's like, do you have to be so blunt about it?
Yeah.
It's like, I ask for directions and I get this elaborate map to buried treasure, and it's like, oh, okay, maybe I didn't need all that.
You didn't need all that.
Just tell me to turn left at the corner.
That's a really great point, though, because it highlights how important it is to recognize your partner's style.
Right?
Because if you are direct, let's say, and they are more subtle, you might miss their cues.
Totally.
Completely.
Totally.
And then it just,
Yeah.
it lives to more frustration.
So then how do we, okay, so we figured out, okay, I'm direct. My partner's more subtle. Do we try to change? You know what I mean?
That's a great question.
Like, how does that work?
You should never try to change who you are fundamentally, right?
Right?
That's not what we're talking about. It's all about being authentic. But there's this element of adaptation,
Right.
compromise.
Yeah.
How can we meet in the middle? So if, for instance, you love spicy food,
Yeah.
and I have low tolerance for spice,
Right.
I'm not asking you to give up spicy food.
Yeah.
But when we cook together, maybe you can tone it down a little bit.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
So we can both enjoy it.
Yeah.
Find that perfect blend.
Yeah.
Okay.
And speaking of blends, I think it's time to maybe get into some practical tips.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get some actionable advice here because that's what people are here for.
Absolutely. And, sometimes these things might seem obvious on the surface,
Yeah.
but one of the most effective strategies for good communication is just being upfront about it,
Yeah.
right? What are your needs? What are your expectations?
Right.
And just communicate those clearly and directly. This isn't about reading each other's minds. It's about expressing yourself openly.
I love that. Okay, so you might be saying to yourself, like, okay, duh. Like, tell me something I don't know, right?
Right, yeah.
But so many times, and especially if you've been in a relationship for a while,
Yeah.
you fall into this pattern or this trap of like, they should just know.
Yes.
They should know that this is bugging me, or they should just know how I'm feeling.
Exactly.
Get what I'm saying?
But we assume they should.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And it's a recipe for disaster
It is.
because they
can't read your mind.
can't read your mind.
And here's the thing.
And the more we think they should be able to, the more resentment we build.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, instead of saying you never do the dishes or you always do this, it's like, well, maybe try when you don't do the dishes, like it makes me feel like you don't care or whatever it is, like use I statements.
Absolutely. Be direct. I statements. All of that is gold when it comes to communication. But here's where it gets really tricky, I think.
Yes.
This whole idea of patience,
Ah.
right? Because we can know all this stuff,
Yeah.
but when you're in the heat of the moment
Exactly.
and your communication styles are clashing,
Yeah.
having patience is probably the hardest thing to do.
Yes, it is. 100%.
And it's a process. It's not like you just wake up one day and go, I'm going to be patient now. It's a journey.
Right.
It's something you're constantly working on.
Yeah. And it's like learning to dance. Right. And sometimes you step on each other's toes and it's like, I'm sorry,
Right.
I messed up. Okay, so we messed up. We didn't communicate properly. So that leads me to, I think, one of the most important things is that idea of seeking to understand.
Absolutely.
Getting curious.
It's not just about listening to respond.
Yeah.
It's actually listening to hear what they're saying and why,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and recognizing that their communication style might be completely different from yours.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's wrong.
Correct.
Right. And getting curious, as you said.
Right.
Like, where did this come from? Maybe they grew up in a household where you just didn't express your emotions. It was
Right.
taboo.
Right.
Right.
Or maybe they had a really harsh critic growing up and they were always afraid to say the wrong thing.
Right.
Or maybe they were just, naturally more introverted, and so they're processing things differently than you are.
Totally. It's not a personal attack.
Right.
It's just how they communicate.
Yeah, exactly.
So super interesting stuff.
Yeah,
Lots to unpack here.
absolutely.
I hope that this is giving you some, some food for thought,
Yeah.
because it definitely is for me, this whole world of communication styles. We all have our own little quirks
We do.
and our own ways of communicating, but it's about building those bridges of understanding.
Absolutely.
Communication is a journey, not a destination.
Yes. Lovely.
And I think as long as you're both making an effort to really understand each other, that's what matters.
Totally. Couldn't have said it better myself. Now, here's a little homework assignment for you.
Okay.
Okay. Think about the last time you had an argument with your partner, okay?
Okay.
How did your different communication styles maybe play into that whole debacle?
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And how could maybe approaching it differently,
Yes.
using some of these tips, how could that have helped you get through that argument?
Very good question. Think about it.
Yes.
Analyze.
There you go. And on that note, we'll leave you with that.